Okay, so I just got to telling you about my friend who just found out that her partner is HIV positive after having sexual relations with him for 9 months, and at least one of those times without protection. And I just want to kind of talk about what's going on out here in these Atlanta streets. So most people know right now that the HIV rate in Atlanta, it, according to the Centers for Disease Control, rivals that of a third world country, right? It's comparable to Zimbabwe. And I have my thoughts on that, on what that means and what those statistics mean. And I'm actually going to put out another video to break down the statistics about the rate of HIV in Zimbabwe and the rates of HIV here and what populations are affected and why I think they're so much higher here. I think in a sense though those numbers are maybe a little bit flawed or inflated just based on the fact that so many different people come here from all over the world and certain populations come here. But anyway, I'll say that analysis for another video. What I do want to say is that there's a lot of casual polyamorous sex going on here. It's talked about a lot on social media and it's talked about a lot, even amongst my friends. A lot of casual stuff going on. And I just want to caution people to be careful because, I mean, people are going to do what they do. They're going to have sex, they're going to enjoy their sexual relationships. I get it. The sex drive is strong. People are young. You want to enjoy yourself. But, we're not living in the 50s and the 60s where all you had to worry about was syphilis. I hate to say all you had to worry about was syphilis, but syphilis is curable. But syphilis or herpes or gonorrhea, um, and even though modern science and technology has made HIV a disease that is now manageable and made it chronic, okay, similar to diabetes, is still something to consider. And in another video, I'll talk about what those issues are to consider. It's not something you want to have at all. If you have to, I mean, if it happens to you, God forbid, any one of us could become infected. If you are HIV, if you are sexually active, and I'm speaking to married and unmarried people, if you are sexually active, you run the risk of becoming infected. That's it. Okay. And you have to deal with that. And it's a different way of looking at the world, a different way of interacting with your partners, your family members, your health. And it's possible, you know, I know people personally who are positive and they're living full active lives and they're having full active sex lives. But there was a journey for them to get to the point where they could deal with the acceptance of having the disease and moving on. So what I want to say to people is that I know for a fact, just from formerly being an STD counselor, I know for a fact that people don't use condoms every time they have sex. People don't get tested. They don't ask their partner to get tested. You trust people. You look at someone and you still say, oh, they don't look like they have something. You're doing some risky stuff out here. And I don't know if it's worth it. I don't think it's worth it. You know, I get tested every 6 months and that test is terrifying every time I take it, right? Every time I take it is terrifying because you never know. And by the grace of God, I've been negative all this time. And I would like to stay that way. And I'm very, very cautious and in my behavior because of it. But I know for a fact that many of you all aren't. Many of you all aren't. I have friends that have like multiple partners, multiple men, multiple women, and they tell me that sometimes the condom breaks, sometimes this slips. It's like, come on, you all taking some chances out here. It's a. I'm not going to say is the sex that good. I'm not going to say that. Ask that question. I just know that we're living in a time now where we have to have these very real conversations about what we're doing with our bodies and how that affects the people that are in our lives. Okay. I remember, oh, I'm trying to remember this. What happened? I remember several years ago, there was somebody who wanted to date me, and I decided to give them a chance. We started dating. We hadn't slept together yet. And, he kept pressuring me, and I said, well, you need to go get tested. And I said, I had already had mine, but I was willing to go again. And we went, we pulled up to the clinic, sat there, and he just broke out into a cold sweat and said, no, I can't do this. I can't do this. And then he drove away. I heard from him 3 days later, and he said, look, I'm fine. Let's just use condoms. He said, I don't want to take that test. I said, I get you. It's a terrifying test. I said, I'm always afraid when I take it. I said, but you shouldn't. You should take it. You should know your status so you can protect yourself. And I said, let's just say worst case scenario, that is the worst news, that it's something that you don't want to hear. And then you can have a full active life. It's just that you have to do some things in the beginning to stabilize yourself so that you can have a long and healthy life later on post infection. He didn't want to hear about it. He didn't want to talk about it. He said, no, this is too much. I can't do it. He said, I'm feeling you. We can have a great relationship. I'll be good to you. He said, I'll be faithful to you. But he said, I'm not taking that test. And I was like, I can't do it then. I can't do it. You know. And, I've been celibate longer than I care to think about it because I just can't take those chances. But lots of you are taking those chances. You're hooking up with people that you meet at the bar, and you meet in your events, you meet on your travel, and you're telling yourself, well, we're using a condom. Well, condoms break. Things slip out, and you don't always use condoms for everything. So if you insist on taking these chances, then we have to have a different dialogue about what this is and what this means. There should be a certain framework or narrative because all I know is when I go out to the public, and when I have these conversations with my friends or with acquaintances about HIV, people don't want to talk about it. There's just fear, and people's hearts begin to race. Their eyes get wide. They don't want to have that discussion. But it's here now, right? It's a part of our everyday fabric. We have to have that conversation. Conversation about people who are positive and people who aren't. People, husbands are stepping out and bringing it home to their wives, and those wives don't necessarily leave them. Couples are passing it to each other. Older people who are recently widowed who step back out into the dating scene are becoming positive. Children, young people are the one group that has the highest growing rate of infections. Young people between the ages of 13 and 24. What does that mean for what that generation of adults is going to look like when they hit their 20s and 30s? You gotta have a better conversation. Figure out a way to talk about it and not make it taboo. Not be afraid. Not be afraid to tell your status. Not be afraid to have it become an everyday part of the discussion so that we don't have these instances occur where someone has it and they keep that information to themselves and endanger their partner's life through silence. I got to stop talking. My throat hurts for some reason. sneezing all day. I've been eyes been tearing up because of the leaves outside. Like I'm surrounded by leaves. This is the worst season for me when it comes to allergies. Because the leaves are falling and the mold and the leaves flying around. It's rough. So I'm going to stop talking, but I did want to kind of present that discussion out there for people. I'm interested in your opinions. Drop your comments in the comment section about your experiences with HIV. Um, if you have friends, or family members, or have this been a discussion? Is this something people talk about? What have you thought about what you would do if you were to become positive? Are you positive? How do you handle those things? Um, it's a very fascinating topic, actually, because it's no longer something you can't point to a group of people and say, oh, well, I don't do that or I'm not them, so I don't have to worry about it. It's here, right? There's a billboard about down the street from where I live, and the billboard says 1.8 million people were infected with HIV in 2016. That's what we know. Those are just the ones that we know who were tested. We don't know the ones who haven't bothered going to the doctor to find out. So anyway, now and also doesn't count people who test themselves at home with the home testing kits, right? So anyway, I'm gonna leave it alone. Um, I'm a little bit distracted because I'm concerned about my friend. I'm angry at her man. She's feeling sick right now. She's actually asked me, can she come stay with me and take the test up here? Because if the news is bad, she wants to be around somebody that loves her. I'm like, sure, come up here, stay with me. We'll get through this together. So anyway, it's just got me kind of bummed out because that's just not cool. Anyway, guys, be careful out there and let's start this dialogue.